Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking today to Alex Matuzak. He's an avid motorcycle rider, and he's going to go through his gear for us as most of us are pulling our motorcycles out of storage here in the Northern Hemisphere and getting ready to ride. So stick around. We'll be right back with that information. Hi there, Smart Drivers. Welcome back. Talking to Alex Matuzak today. He's an avid motorcycle rider, and as you can see, he has one of these very nice BMW motorcycles, and he's going to talk to us today about his riding gear. So first of all, Alex, just talk to us a little bit about this bike. This bike is actually quite famous, is it not?
Yeah.
This model of motorcycle, actually.
Yes, it has. The bike is pretty much built for on and off road capabilities. It's been taken around the world, up north and south, by many people. So it's a bike designed to handle pretty much any road condition you can throw at it. It's quite a nice machine, and if you're an adventurous person and you want to go where the road doesn't take, or where the road ends, and you want to go beyond, one of these types of bikes are for you.
Okay. And this bike was made famous by Ewan McGregor in a movie.
Yes, they actually had the 1200s.
Okay.
But it's the bike is built on the same model, except this just doesn't come with it comes with a smaller V-twin engine there. So
Okay, so it's just the bigger version of this bike, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they actually circumnavigated the planet in that bike, right?
Yeah, they started in England, and they went all the way around. They actually came through Canada. They went through Calgary, and they flew back over. They went to New York, and they flew back from New York to England. I think it took them about 3 months, and it was 3 of them on like I mentioned, there are 1200s. But yeah, they went around, circumnavigated the globe, the 3 of them on a BMW built motorcycle.
That's awesome. So that's really great. So today you're going to talk to us about some of the gear, and obviously this time of year you really want to be well dressed and warm, because even though the temperature, you and I are standing outside, it's 10 degrees or whatnot out. Still, when you're on a motorcycle and that wind is pushing against you at 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, it's cold.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Especially like most motorcycles don't come with a big windshield. I'm a taller guy, and it really affects me. So if you're hovering around like 5 or 10 degrees and the air isn't warm yet, you need some protection, because it gets cold, really, really fast.
Yeah.
So.
And it's kind of like outdoor stuff. One of the most important things is probably windbreak, right? Just trying to break that wind with the clothing that you've got on, those types of things. So you can probably talk to us a little bit about some of those things in terms of keeping yourself warm and dry and keeping the wind off of you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. In that aspect, you don't need something super thick. You don't need to wear a lot of thick gear to keep you warm. The wind is the worst enemy, and if you can stop the wind penetrating your jacket and your pants and your clothing, then you're going to stay warmer and stay comfortable for longer periods of time.
Okay, so should like, is this like other types of outdoor activities? Should you be dressing in layers and underclothing and that sort of thing under your gear that you're riding on your motorcycle?
Well, it really depends on what you're doing with your motorcycle, right? Like I like to go on my motorcycle. I go for long trips, so I'm on the highway or on back roads, or I'm on the bike for a long period of time during the day. So you have to prepare for all weather conditions. I'm probably more doing something that not the average motorcycle rider would do. If you're riding, like a regular style motorcycle, it's just a street bike, you can have a little less protection. The safety equipment is still key, but you're not, it's really when you hit highways and you're going to be sitting on the bike for long periods of time, you really need to plan ahead. You have to look at the weather conditions, and you have to dress appropriately, because it will make or break your experience. When I started out, and I've been on trips where we were under prepared, and it just, when your boots get wet, your socks get wet, your stuff gets wet, and you get cold, it's not fun for anybody.
Yeah, and at that point, the trip is more or less done at that point, because you just can't continue because you're just so uncomfortable.
Pretty much. You just pretty much go from Starbucks to Starbucks.
Excellent. Okay, so you're going to go through some of the safety gear that we should really have when we start riding. I mean, obviously, some of this stuff, for new people who are buying a bike and those types of things, some of this stuff can really add up, but it's kind of stuff that you got to buy over a period of time, right?
Yeah. You can get into it. The point I want to make is you don't want to cheap out on motorcycle gear. That's the most important thing. You want to first of all address what you're riding and what your conditions. If you're just going to buy a regular street bike, what you really want to focus on is stuff that'll protect you if you fall off. It's not something you want to happen, but on a motorbike, it's a lot different than a car because you are exposed to all the elements, you're exposed to all the vehicles. So if there's a mistake, if there's no fender benders on a motorcycle, it can be quite serious. So what are your riding conditions that you're going to be in, and then you have to kind of address that. So if you got like an adventure bike and you're going to go in the backwards, you don't want to have any mishaps, you don't want to run into any problems out there. But if you're just riding a street bike, like a cruiser bike or a regular sport bike, you can just, it's really what level of protection you need for your riding style. And like I said, you don't want to cheap out. These are not items you want to cheap out on. You don't want a cheap helmet. You don't want cheap gloves. You don't want cheap gear, because cheap gear, when you fall down and you get hurt from saving a couple bucks on a jacket or saving a couple bucks on a pair of pants, especially your helmet. Helmets, really good quality helmets are, plus the $500 mark in Canadian funds. And I personally would never spend any money less than that, because it's your noggin, right? It's your head. You fall off your bike and you have a cheap helmet, that extra $100 could be the difference between you never walking again.
Yeah. So, well, and the other thing is when I was young and we had motorcycles, and I had friends who went down on a motorcycle and got road rash from pavement. And let me tell you, at 50 miles an hour going down on a bike, I mean, even if you don't break bones, the amount of skin and flesh that pavement takes off your body, it was really ugly looking.
Yeah, very minor, like something like tripping on the road walking can be a bad experience on a motorbike, even at slow speed. And when you see those guys driving around in their t-shirts, no shirt, in shorts and sandals and flip-flops, I cringe when I see these people, because they don't really realize what's going to happen. It might look cool, it might be 35 degrees out and you might be really hot, but I still wear a basic level of protection when I do that, because you never know. A patch of gravel, something hopping out in the road, as soon as you fall down and you've got a heavy bike, like this bike is over 500 pounds. It's on the heavier side of bikes, but you got a bike to contend with coming down on you. And, like Rick said, it's the road rash. You don't even want to, you can avoid that stuff so easily. You just have to be smart about it.
Exactly. And you got to be conscious. You're like, oh, I'm just going to the grocery store. Well, unfortunately, just going down to the grocery store or go to the liquor shop or something like that, that's unfortunately when it's going to happen, right?
Yeah. When you're least expecting it, when you're not paying attention and you think nothing's going to happen, Murphy's Law, that's when it happens. So you want to be prepared. I never leave home without at least wearing my jacket or my gloves. That's like and my boots. That's the bare minimum that I wear. So. And
the other thing is that one of the strategy you want to use is, if you get knocked off your bike and you're trying to go down, you always want to try and get yourself between you and whatever you're going to hit. So if you're going down between a car, you're trying to go down and you're going to be sliding on your butt. So at least you want your back and whatnot protected, your major organs, with a good jacket, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. You want to protect every part of your body the best you can. There's so many options out there now in the market today, and stuff is not as expensive as it used to be, just through the manufacturing process. And years ago, everything was hand stitched, and you had to get stuff made custom, and this stuff really wasn't available to you. That's why you see in all the older, if you read motorcycle books, it's leather. Leather's on everybody. They got leather gloves, leather boots, and that does the trick for most of the bike riding for most people. But like speeds, highway, other traffic, it's just, you want to be as most protected as you possibly can.
Okay, so let's go just through some of the stuff from what you got here, and
okay,
some options to people.
Well, we'll just go head to toe then, I guess. So we'll start with a helmet. Again, we kind of spoke about this earlier. Don't cheap out on a helmet. I wouldn't spend less. My recommendation is I wouldn't spend less than $500 on a helmet. Get a helmet that fits good, nice and snug, almost like a little too tight on your head. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, but you don't want to have this wiggling around in your head, because that can cause more injury when you fall. So you get a nice snug helmet. You don't need one with a visor. This is just a adventure riding helmet. You can just get a generic helmet, a regular, bowl-shaped helmet. I have a tinted visor on mine. I also have, I don't have it here with me, but I have a clear visor. And some laws actually state that you can't ride with a tinted visor after a certain time at night. So it's never been a problem for me, but it does get hard to see. So I have a clear one there when I ride, if I ride at night, and I put that on there. I have the communication device attached to mine. So if I ride with a friend, he has one as well. It's a great way to communicate. Plus, this allows me to talk on my phone if I really need to. I don't do it much when I'm riding my bike. So there's so many little options you can add to your helmet, but the main part is get a good helmet that fits. Most people at the store will help you out when you buy one, but don't cheap out. That's the one area that I would spend the most amount of money on my helmet. It's your head, and it can be a lot of problems if you buy something that doesn't protect you.
And just one note on helmets, here in British Columbia, they recently passed a law that it has to have certain safety standards. So the helmet has to have a sticker on it. It has to have a DOT sticker on it, or Snell or something else. Just wherever you are in the world, just look at your driver's manual, or your rider's manual rather, and make sure that you got that sticker so that your helmet meets legal requirements when you get on your bike and start riding.
Yeah, and there's also some states in America that you're allowed to ride without a helmet. That's your choice. Rick wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it.
Definitely wouldn't recommend it, but it is an option in some states.
Yeah. Okay, and then we'll go down to my jacket. This is an adventure jacket. So this one actually is waterproof and windproof. So I ride in torrential downpours with this guy. It has really stiff elbow pads in it. It has stiff shoulder pads in it. It has a back pad on it, and I believe it's got side pads on it as well too, for your hips on your side. But this is a little extreme for if you're just like a riding a cruiser, or just you're just a pleasure rider. It's a little extreme for that. It's nice to have. You want something with a lot of reflection on it because people sometimes don't see motorcycle riders. This one is actually Europe standard, so it's got extra reflectors you can flip out on your chest, because I know in Europe they have different standards for reflectiveness from your jacket. You want to have something with a lot of good pockets in it that zip up. When you're riding on your bike on the highway, you don't want stuff flying out of your pockets. There's a lot of options in jackets out there. You go to the store and there's hundreds of jackets. The main points I want to get through is get something that's comfortable, maybe a size or two big for you in case it gets cold and you want to throw a jacket or hoodie underneath it. And then if you take care of it, it's for life. You get something, spend a little more money on something a little more quality, and it's yours for life. You don't have to worry about it. And the reason I purchased this one is the ratings on it. This rides well in hot and cold. Obviously, if it gets really, really hot, no matter what jacket you're wearing, you're going to be hot. But this one has vents you can open up in it and everything. So it was a great choice for me. It served my needs.
And the other thing, like Alex said previously, is that most of the stuff 20 years ago was all leather. Now there's a lot of synthetic options that breathe a lot better and have a lot more. I would add, I think they have a lot more protection than they once did.
Yeah, Gore-Tex. This is actually, I don't believe BMW uses Gore-Tex. They have their own line that is very similar to Gore-Tex. I think it's called Cordura, and it's the waterproof and breathable fabric, and I think it's the competition to Gore-Tex. So that's what all this stuff is made out of. Again, pants are huge. You fall off your bike, the first thing that's going to hit is your side or your hips. These have hip protection in them. They have knee protection in them, and they're really tough, and they really stop the wind. This one actually connects to my jacket, so it almost turns into a one-piece kind of suit. So it's really good for the long rides. But again, just address what your riding needs are. And again, this is super duper extreme. They make like jeans colored ones of these that have padding in them. But even like a really good thick pair of jeans is fine for street riding. But I would recommend, I just come from the thought that this is your only line of protection between you and anything you fall on or hits you. So if I can find a pair of pants that has the maximum protection and it's really comfortable to ride, so that's why I spent the money on these guys. Kind of step up from that, if you're going to do a lot of tour riding, if you're going to be on highways lots, you're going to definitely run into weather issues. Most likely the rain's going to be your I wouldn't call it an enemy anymore. I actually quite enjoy riding through rain. It's actually nice and refreshing. When I started out, I had just the regular rain suit that I just bought specifically for motorbiking, and actually these work pretty well. They block the wind pretty good, and if you don't have if you have one of these kicking around, they work fine. They're just not a one piece thing, but it served me fine for when I rode it. But nowadays I require a little more. I'm on the road a lot longer, and I don't want anything leaking through, so I stepped up to a full one piece water suit, and it's got really high lots of reflection on it. So in the rain, you're less visible in the rain, and in any weather condition other than being like sunny and clear. So this guy just zips up the middle, actually fits over that suit, and when it gets a little cool, it blocks all the wind, and it's 100% waterproof. There's a little hood thing here that pops out over my head. My helmet goes on it, so no water drips down my neck. No water. What the problem with most suits is, because you're sitting on a motorbike, water drips down in between your legs. This prevents that. So again, if you're just going, 15 minutes down the highway, it's not a huge thing. But we spend, hours, hundreds of kilometers a day on a road. So that really, really helps when we run into colder or rainy weather.
And the other thing about rain too is a full face helmet. Really, you start getting rain at 60 miles an hour in your face, you want a full face helmet on because it really hurts.
Yeah, and another point to that is a quality helmet is designed to push the water off your visor when you're going down the highway. The wind will actually keep your visor pretty clean. On a poorly designed helmet, that's not gonna happen. It's just gonna be a nuisance for you to always be cleaning. And that, like, all my gloves have a little squeegee on them. This glove has a squeegee on it to squeegee it off. So it's just about being prepared, right? Like the things they have these days is just
No, they have just about everything that you can use. So you obviously have gloves as well.
Yeah, I just have two pairs. I have my rain and like cold weather riding gloves. These are kind of double shelled, so there's a waterproof side, and then it's just a little thinner when you put on there. I really like these gloves. They're like a 2-in-1, and then I have just a summer riding pair, just when it's clean conditions right there.
And then the last piece is the boots that you've got. You've got specific boots for riding.
Yeah, again, your boots is a very important part of riding your bike. Your ankle is a weak point and a lot of people have a lot of ankle and foot injuries. I went out and bought a full-on Gore-Tex adventure boot. I've had this for a few years now. They're not cheap, but man, these things have saved my life in so many situations. They don't get wet. They're fully stitched up right up to the top, so when your pants go over them, you can walk in almost a foot of water with these things, and they're tough. And you fall off your bike, especially if you're riding in off-road and rocky situations, and you got to put your foot down. A regular like work boot or steel-toed boot or high ankle boot is your ankle's just going to snap like a twig. And that just goes back to the point of you have to plan your ride, and you have to know your riding conditions, because you don't want to get injured out in the middle of nowhere, right? So that was my premise in setting myself up for this. But if you're just a street rider, and you go to the motorcycle store, they'll have specific street riding boots. But get one, make sure they fit. They will break in. They're a little harder to break in, but again, just look what your needs are and find the boot or the item that fits it. And again, boots are super duper important. You know, you got to use your leg to walk on. So
now, obviously, for some of you, because some of you are just going to start riding and getting bikes, and you're young and you don't have a lot of money, and obviously you're not going to be able to start here, right? Alex has been riding for a number of years. He's accumulated this gear. Now, some of the stuff you can have other stuff. It's just a matter if you're putting protection on your body, like boots. If you can't afford boots right away, at least get some big heavy boots that you can wear that are going to protect your ankles and come up and have some sort of ankle support, right? If you can't afford gloves right away, at least wear some sort of leather glove that's going to protect your hands, right?
Yeah.
And those types of things. You can improvise. You don't need to start, you can't start at the top because you're going to buy the bike, and obviously the bike is going to be a few $1,000s. And this gear is obviously going to run you in the thousands of dollars. So you got to kind of, you know, it's kind of an evolution, right?
it is. Yeah, and Rick's right. Like when I bought my first bike, I didn't go and buy all this stuff. It evolved because of my riding needs. Yeah. But when I started out, like a good pair of boots, a high ankle boot that you can pull tight with the laces is going to be better than a pair of sandals, right? So you don't need to get the top of the line gear, but you want to be as protected as you can. And again, it's your riding conditions. Most people don't ride at the level that I ride, and the demands I need out of gear. But if you've just got a sport bike, and if you've just got a cruiser, and you like going out on the Sunday rides, and you just want to enjoy your motorcycle, you know, chances are you'll probably never come off your motorcycle, and so your gear's never really going to get tested. But I used to ride years with just a good leather jacket on my cruiser. And you know, I had a really like extra thick pair of jeans I bought from the store, and I had a pair of high ankle boots that I make sure I laced, you know, and I had some Gauntlet gloves. And what I mean by Gauntlet gloves is Gauntlet gloves go over your sleeve. You want gloves that go over your sleeve, because if your sleeve goes over your glove, wind will go all the way up there. So especially if it's raining, and you know, you can buy all that stuff pretty inexpensive. You might even have something you can kind of morph into turning in gear. But you know, going back to the helmet, that's the one thing. If there's one thing you're going to spend money on when you buy your bike, is your helmet, for sure.
Make sure you spend, you know, the money on the helmet at the beginning, so that, you know, the first piece of gear you're going to buy, obviously put the money in the helmet, and that way you're going to be safe, right?
Yeah.
Because just from personal experience of working with people with brain injuries, you don't recover from those. So get a good helmet and be safe. And I'd really like to thank Alex for taking the time to show us all the gear and equipment and what you can do to keep yourself safe and keep yourself comfortable while you're riding your motorcycle. Thanks very much, Alex.
Thanks a lot, Rick.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.